Hey, good evening. Thank you for joining us on the Thursday Night Hockey Show. I am Dave Valente. I am riding solo tonight. Travis or Rednick is in parts unknown. Said something about fiddles going down to Georgia and looking for souls. So, good luck to Travis down in Georgia, and hopefully he's doing well. And we'll see him next week as we start talking about the second round of the playoffs. But we are still firmly ensconced in the first round of the playoffs. So let's dip into tonight's schedule. And let me share the screen here. All right. So early games tonight. Getting underway here in just a moment is the Carolina Hurricanes in Boston to take on the Boston Bruins. Carolina has a chance to shut this series down with a win tonight, although they have not played well in Boston. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Starting at 7:30. And I've got to say, with the way that they've done the schedule this year, I really appreciate um, the networks alternating the game start time so that I can watch the start of the Carolina Hurricane game, and then when that hits the first inter period, I can dip right into that Maple Leafs Lightning game and just kind of flip back and forth and catch the end of the period of each of the periods. So good on the TV producers for getting that right because so many years in the past we'd have like 6 games start at 7 o'clock because the overload of Eastern teams in the NHL. You'd have a bunch of teams starting right at 7 o'clock, and you have to flip back and forth. And when periods would end, you just have to deal with the studio coverage. Not with the way that they're doing it this year. I really appreciate that. And I have enjoyed the fact that they've been able to keep that every other day a game rotation in this schedule. So you have the 4 games going tonight, 4 games going tomorrow, depending on teams winning or losing. And tonight we'll have fewer games going into Saturday. The Saturday and Sunday we'll have game sevens. So it's very enjoyable. I really like the schedule so far. So. Um, but Maple Leafs Lightning start at 7:30 tonight. That'll be a good matchup, a chance for the Maple Leafs to, kill off the curse and get on to the second round, and a chance for the Lightning to, reignite the demons for the Maple Leafs. But we'll see what happens here for that game. At 9:30, the Wild and the Blues, kick off. This is a very tough series. Um, but the Blues do have a chance to put the Wild away and move on to the next round where they'll be facing the Colorado Avalanche, who have advanced already. And then the late game starting at 10 o'clock, Oilers and the Kings. Surprisingly, although I actually predicted this when I did the bracket thing for the NHL, I did predict that the LA Kings would win this series. I like the mix of the Kings boards. They're like a mix of veterans and young players. The veterans really stood up this series, but this is a very strange series, and we'll get into that in a little bit as well. But yeah, the LA Kings have a chance to close this series out. We actually have a chance for not all series, but 7 of the 8 series to go the distance. Usually, we'll have 1 or 2 series get done in 4, a series get done in 5, and maybe 6, and then you'll have a couple of series make it to 7 games. This could be 7 full games on Saturday and Sunday for Game 7. That would be awesome. Great for hockey enthusiasts and new people alike. There's nothing better than playoff hockey. So um, let's get to some news. This week, there was a questionable call on the island this week. The Islanders sacked Barry Trotz after 4 seasons in charge of the team, including the last 2 seasons where he was uh, in the conference finals. In fact, he was 2 goals. The last conference finals where Tampa beat them in Game 7, 1-0. They gave up a shorthanded goal in that game and could never score in that game. So they were very close to getting to the finals in 2 consecutive years. And it wasn't for a juggernaut Tampa team. they could have gotten into the finals. They could have won the finals. Um, I I don't agree with this call. I think much more responsibility needs to be paid for by Lou Lamoriello. He decided to ice the oldest team in the history, well, not in the history of hockey, but one of the oldest teams the oldest team certainly this year in hockey. Um, and uh, I don't think Barry Trotz deserved that fate after just one season of missing the playoffs. And in fact, if you watch they had a rough end of the season, but they really after the, early real bad troubles at home, I think they went winless in the first 7 games at home at their new facility after going 500 on a road trip to begin the season, a month-long road trip. Um, they were really behind the 8 ball at that point, and they got hit by COVID, of course, the old age and all that stuff. They played really well. They played themselves not back into the playoff race, but they were, I think, the, 9th place team in the Eastern Conference. So they were close, but they you know uh, by midseason, all the top 8 teams had really separated themselves from the pack of all the other teams in the Eastern Conference. So it wasn't for the Islanders to come back in this season, but again, I just don't feel that Barry Trotz should have paid for that with his job. He goes into a very interesting job market because it's very limited right now. There are only 2 official openings in the NHL. That's Detroit and Philadelphia. I think he would do well in either one of those. If I was picking, I would go with Detroit because they got a fantastic young defense core. Um, but and plenty of draft picks and all that stuff, he could really build a team. Philadelphia is a much more bigger project, I think, moving forward. I don't know that Philly's really hit the rock bottom yet, and we'll see. If they hire Trotz, I don't think they actually hit a rock bottom. I think they can come back and be somewhat competitive. I just don't think that Philly's got the horses to really make it look good in the Eastern Conference. So um, let's see. Scariest piece of news to come out came out of Ottawa this week. Uh, Ottawa relieved Pierre Maguire after less than a year on the job. Please, ESPN or TNT, do not hire Pierre Maguire. It was so nice not seeing Pierre Maguire on the games this year. There we go. There I am. Uh, it was so nice seeing Pierre Maguire or not seeing Pierre Maguire on the TV this year. Not hearing him mention Sidney Crosby's name 5 times in a game that the Pittsburgh Penguins were not even playing in. Um, so please, 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 ESPN and TNT, do not hire Pierre Maguire. Um, but speaking of Sidney Crosby, he was injured in Game 6 or Game 5 of the Rangers series. Game 5? Yeah, Game 5 of the Ranger series, and is uncertain for the game tomorrow against the Rangers, Game 6. I'm wondering if Pierre Maguire's lighting candles, singing incantations, and things like that with regards to Sidney Crosby. We know that he loves him, and um, I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. NHL Draft Lottery happened this week. It happened on Tuesday, with the best odds. Montreal Canadiens ended up winning the draft lottery. They had 18% odds to win the draft lottery. They did. Um, and they're going to be expected to take Canadian junior player Shane Wright with that first overall pick. I don't think there is much controversy on that pick. I think he'll definitely be going to Montreal. Um, Sad news for Travis. His Arizona Coyotes did lose. The New Jersey Devils got won the second overall pick and moved up ahead of the Arizona Coyotes and pushed them back to third. Now, hopefully for Travis, New Jersey goes in another direction, and Uri Slavkovsky is still available at that pick, but we shall see. I will say that other lottery winners out of that draft lottery were both Buffalo and Columbus. Buffalo had a had held on to Vegas's pick, which was at 16th overall. If Vegas had won the draft lottery, that pick would have reverted back to Vegas as it was a top 10 protected pick. Columbus had Chicago's pick from the Seth Jones trade last year, and if that had won the draft lottery and moved up to 1 or 2, that would have gone back to Chicago. So Buffalo and Chicago keep their lottery picks and get at least 2 picks in the first round. Buffalo actually has 3. We'll see where the Florida pick ends up. It can end up anywhere from 28 to 32. So we'll see where that heads. And see, my Sabres, speaking of them, they signed Alexander Kiskov, who was a second-round draft pick from Russia. He was a point-a-game player in the Russian Junior League, not the highest scorer in the league, but he had balanced scoring. Watched a long video of him today, and looks good out there. He's a little small, but a very speedy winger. Actually does get into the dirty areas, so I'm excited to see him come over to the skate on the North American ice, get in that smaller rink, and see what he does. I'm expecting him to play a season in Rochester before he makes his official Sabres debut. Maybe get a couple games in at the end of next season. But really, I think they're going to treat him like they did with Jack Quinn and JJ Peterka. Keep him in Rochester, let him develop down there, let him find his game in Rochester and bring him along slowly. There really isn't just a massive rush to get him up into the NHL. Um, but I'm excited. I think he's going to be a pretty exciting player for the Sabres. And I thought he was a steal for the Sabres where they got him in the draft last year. So we're starting to see award finalists being released by the NHL. Uh, we've had 4 different awards announced, the finalists for those awards. Today was the Hart Award, and that's the MVP of the league, is voted on by the media, I believe. Yeah, media votes on this one. The final 3 candidates for this are Austin Matthews for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Connor McDavid of the Edmonton Oilers, and Igor Shesterkin for the New York Rangers. It's not often that a goaltender gets the MVP award. I know Dominic Hasek won it a couple times, um, but the fact that Shesterkin is in that New York media market, just like the Adam Fox win of the Norris Trophy last year, I think that might play a factor into this vote. Although having Austin Matthews and that Toronto media market, um, uh, we'll see how that one goes. This is gonna be an interesting race. I'd like to see how the votes shake out with this race here. Vezina was announced a couple days ago. That was Jacob Markstrom from Calgary, UC Saros from Nashville, and the aforementioned Igor Shesterkin. Had He's had a really phenomenal year. I mean, you can't say. Uh, I mean, it's pretty self-evident he's had a phenomenal year if he's being nominated for the Hart Trophy and the Vezina Trophy. That's a hell of a year. So um, I think Shesterkin wins this one based off of being in that New York media market. Um, Saros had a great season, fell off and was injured at the end of the season, and but still a phenomenal season. I think he was overworked this year, though. And Jacob Markstrom was phenomenal in net for the Calgary Flames. Um, was everything they thought they were going to get last year. Last year was just such a weird year with the COVID and being in the All Canadian division. Calgary never found its footing, and then firing their coach mid-season and bringing in Daryl Sutter. Now that the Sutter defensive system is in place, Markstrom looks light years better than he did last season. So I don't think he wins the trophy, but has had a great season. The Norris Trophy. Victor Hedman is headlining this one again. He's been nominated 4 years in a row, winner of a couple times. Roman Yossi has been nominated a couple times as well, and then Cale Makar. Uh, it was an interesting vote last year. I thought Cale Makar or Yossi would win the trophy last year, but it went to Adam Fox of the Rangers. I thought that was a stunning result. I thought Fox had a good season, but not that good of a season. But Fox had a great season this season too, just not quite up to the level that he had last year. And uh, I, if I'm predicting on this one, it's going to be Cale Makar. I think there's just way too much juice around Cale Makar. He's done things this season that just boggle the mind. There was that goal that he scored against Chicago, where he was traveling up the boards towards the blue line, cut on a dime, just spun around, left the defenseman, just quaking in his boots and falling down, and he cut to the net and just sniped a beautiful shot over the shoulder of the goaltender, Marc-Andre Fleury, for the overtime winner. That that kid does stuff with the puck I can't fathom. Like, he's so good. Um, so yeah, I believe Makar wins the Norris, and then finally the last trophy that's been announced so far is the Calder Trophy. This one's going to be an interesting vote. There's Michael Bunting of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Trevor Zegras of the Anaheim Ducks, and Mo Seider of the Detroit Red Wings. A lot of people are saying Mo Seider is going to win it. I wouldn't be surprised. I think Zegras is kind of the more exciting rookie player. I don't know about having Bunting there, and maybe I'm being ageist about this, but Bunting, I think he's like a day younger than the cutoff for the award. And yeah, I guess he does qualify for it, but I mean he's like a 25-year-old player. The other thing with Bunting is that he's on the line with Matthews and Marner. I mean, I could probably be yeah, getting like close to triple digit scoring being on that line with Matthews and Marner. They're just that good. Um, but Bunting's a local guy. He's kind of a hero. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a lot of consideration for the Calder. I'm just hoping that it's either Zegras or Seider. I hope it's Zegras. I think he's had a great season. He's kind of that young face to really look out for, creative face for the NHL, and as evidenced by that goal he scored in Buffalo, or the goal he set up in Buffalo for Sonny Milano. Um, yeah, Zegers is a phenomenal young talent, so that's who I'm hoping wins the Calder. Let's see. Let's go to the series. Let's take a look at the series. This is going to be kind of a short show tonight because of the uh, not a whole lot to talk about because it's all playoffs and we're uh, running out of games to talk about. Let me take a look at the scores here. No score in Boston and Carolina Hurricanes, 14:40 left in the first. Three shots to two in favor of the Bruins. So let's talk about that series. The Hurricanes looked like they were going to blitz the Bruins in four games. They had such an advantage over the Bruins in the regular season, outscoring them like 20-2. And then it didn't look any better after games one and two, where they were, it was like 5-1 games. Both of the games were 5-2. I think was the second game. Um, Boston got off the mat. They were reunited the production line and or perfection line, and off the mat and got two good wins in game three and four. Looked like they got their feet under them. Then came game five, and they seemed to disappear again. Uh, Carolina gets out to another 5-2 win and um, puts Boston on the brink. So with this series, I think there are a couple of questions we need to answer with this series. Is which Boston team is going to show up tonight? Is it going to be the Boston team, the one that played in Boston that held their own against the uh, Carolina Hurricanes, scored goals, looked deadly, or are we going to get the one that played in Carolina that looked very impotent, was taking bad penalties, and letting the goaltender get lit up? Um, Good news for Boston is that the game is in Boston tonight. But the bad news is if they win, they book a trip back to their den of horrors in Carolina for game seven. So they'll have to figure something out in two games to get past Carolina. I think Carolina. I would be surprised if Carolina doesn't close it out tonight. But uh, Carolina's had some issues in the playoffs in the last few years, so this is kind of a big test for them is, can you close out a series and get a little extra rest going into round 2? Um, that's a big mark, uh, going forward. So, game 2 tonight, the Tampa-Toronto series. Well, we've been here before. Toronto's been on the brink of moving on to the playoffs. They had last year 3 elimination games against Montreal. They were up 3-1, lost games 5, 6, and 7, to the Montreal Canadiens, and the rest was history. This has also happened against Boston, where they were up 3 games to 1, and lost 3 games in a row, to, be eliminated in game 7. They've had bad blown leads in game 7. This is The Toronto Maple Leafs have not moved on to the playoffs from the first round to the second round, uh, since 2004, since the first administration of George W. Bush, since before the year-long lockout that changed the game of hockey as we know it. Um, maybe this was an ESPN curse. Maybe they're going to move on this year because ESPN had hockey back in 2004 and has it once again. Who knows? But Toronto has demons to exercise. Um, so if they win tonight, they got a chance to do 2 things: one, to exercise those demons, and 2, to knock out a 2-time defending Cup champs. Uh, Tampa, I don't think has really been here before. I mean, they did have the early first round exit to Columbus that kind of set in motion building this team up to be that juggernaut that's won 2 straight cups. This is the difference between the 2 seasons they've won and this season is it's a full 82 game season. It's much more of a grind. Andre Vasilevsky actually looks human in this series, and that you couldn't say that the previous 2 years. He looked superhuman and looked 10 times larger in net than he actually is, and he's a large dude. So, um, I don't know. Is this the end of the road for the Tampa Bay Lightning? Um, that's one of the questions we have to ask this tonight in Game 7 if it gets that far. Which Vasilevsky are we going to get? Are we going to get that 2-time Cup champion, the one that's larger than life, the one that uh, in Game 7 of last year of the conference finals made it look like the Islanders could have had 700 shots on goal, would never have scored. Or are we going to get the one that's been rather pedestrian this playoff so far? Um, and for Toronto, will they get the good Jack Campbell, the one that shut things down after going down 2-0 last night or the night before? Or are they going to get the Jack Campbell that got pulled in game 4, or and looked really shaky at the beginning of last game? We know that confidence is a big thing with Campbell, and if he's not showing a lot of confidence, I know that they left him in for what 8 goals against the Lightning the other night. How long is the leash for Campbell? Either tonight or Game 7 if it gets that far. That's a question that they're going to have to answer, and I look forward to seeing that. I'm hoping there's a Game 7 here because we know that story. If Toronto gets to Tampa gets this series to a Game 7, then all of those doubts and demons, bad juju, whatever you wanna call it, are gonna start flooding back into the, Toronto Maple Leafs, and, the terrors will happen, um, and it'll be in Toronto, and you know that the Yonge Street in front of the arena there will be completely full of Toronto fans getting ready to celebrate a round win and, getting crushed again. We know how that ends, so, um, but, other games tonight, let's take a look at the LA versus Edmonton. So this has been a very strange series for me because despite winning game 1 and like I said earlier, I picked LA to win, when I did my bracket for the, Stanley Cup Finals. I picked LA to win. I picked them to win in, like, 6 or so, and they can do that tonight. Um, and the reason why I did was because I thought I had a good mix of veterans and young players. And I didn't really trust Mike Smith. Now, a lot of that's come to the fore. I still don't trust Mike Smith to get big wins, but even watching game 1, I thought Edmonton was a better team. They were a better team in game 2 and game 3. Game 3, they blew the doors off of LA. But the last 2 games, LA even the last 2 games where LA's won, I thought that Edmonton looked better at times than LA, and just can't solve Jonathan Quick. Jonathan Quick has been, uh, just a very solid starter. He's winning this series for the, LA Kings. They're getting timely goal scoring. Mike Smith is just not that good of a goaltender, and he's letting in bad goals at times, and, you can't do that when it comes to the playoffs. And when Edmonton looks back, if they lose tonight or game 7, when they look back on this season, they're going to rue the fact that they did not get a goaltender, uh, at the trade deadline. And, they didn't get Marc-Andre Fleury, but they could have plucked somebody better than what we're seeing with Mike Smith. So, um, but yeah, so which, are they the question still remains with the Edmonton Oilers, can they outscore Mike Smith? And, Mike Smith did have a good performance in game 2, but can he keep the can he make that key save in the game to keep the Edmonton Oilers in it long enough for them to figure out how to score? Um, the acquisition of Phil Deneau has been a genius. He has really yes, the McDavid lines scored, but they're gonna score no matter what. I think he's done really well. He's won lots of key faceoffs. I think that's just a key acquisition for LA. Um, but Edmonton's gonna need more scoring. They're gonna need more scoring from Evander Kane. They're gonna need more scoring from Zach Hyman. They're gonna need Zach Kassian to stop doing the dumb things and getting penalties and putting his team, at a disadvantage. And need Zach Kassian to score a couple of, at least get some assists in this game in these games. Um, if not, then it's another season where Edmonton's wondering what happened and booking early tea times. So, the last game tonight is, Minnesota at St. Louis. This has been a rough and tumble series. Lots of speed, lots of heavy forechecking, lots of scoring, which I love. I love a good physical series with lots of scoring. This is fantastic. After roasting Ville Husso in games 2 and 3, Blues turned to former playoff hero Jordan Binnington, which I thought was a mistake. I've been rough on Binnington pretty much ever since he won the Stanley Cup. I mean, he hasn't had the best follow-up 3 seasons since the Stanley Cup, um, and had lost his starting job to Ville Husso. But game 4, he comes in, plays well, and gets the win. Game 5, again plays well enough to get the win. So game 6 tonight, the uh, the Blues can close out the Wild. Um, can the clo- can the Blues continue to get that balanced scoring that has sustained the team? That's the key for the Blues going forward. This is a team that had 9 20-goal scorers this season, so it's balanced across the board scoring. Um, we've seen it in this series. You got your Robert Thomas, you got your Vladimir Tarasenko, Ryan O'Reilly. That scoring is going up and down the lineup, so that's what you want to see with St. Louis. Also, can Jordan Binnington continue to play well? Um, is this playoff Jordan Binnington that drove this team to a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago now? Sorry. Um, I don't know. And with the Wild, I mean, they are going with Cam Talbot in net tonight, uh, going away from uh, Marc Andre Fleury's had a rough couple outings. And, with the team on the brink, they're trying to kind of change up the mojo here. And Cam Talbot hasn't played in a while. How well is he going to play coming in off the bench? Now, this playoff season, we've actually seen some rather raw goaltenders come in and play well and reverse team fortunes. So, uh, you know, maybe this works for Minnesota, but it's going to be they're going to need to get some balanced scoring themselves. They need Kirill to continue to put the puck in the net. They're going to need guys like Dumba and Greenway and Eriksson Ek and up and down the lineup. Just more scoring, more scoring. They need it, and without it, will it's a short foray into the playoffs for the Wild, and a much disappointment to Travis because he is a big Kaprizov fan, and um, and he thinks everyone should be a Kirill Kaprizov fan. I like Kirill Kaprizov. I think he's really good, um, but it could be a very short playoff season for them. And then it becomes questions because with Minnesota, because Minnesota has paid so much to players that no longer play for them, Zach Parise and Ryan Suter. Um, with the salary cap not going up, how are they going to be able to field a full team that is competitive in a very competitive Central Division moving forward? So um, I think Minnesota needs this season's win more than St. Louis, but St. Louis is playing hungrier right now. Tomorrow night. Well, tomorrow night would have been a Colorado versus Nashville game. Uh, had Colorado been generous and allowed Nashville to win a couple games in this series, but Nashville bowed out in 4 games, and Colorado just looks like a juggernaut. Man, that is a good team. We talked last show. We come on after they had just drubbed the Preds in the first game 7-2. It was 4-0 before the anthem singer had made it to a seat. It was, I mean, just a blitzkrieg, and while they brought in a third string goaltender to play Ingram for the Predators, and he played well. I'm not going to hang this series loss on Ingram. Um, it's just that Colorado was so strong. Cale Makar, McKinnon. I mean, these guys were just lighting it up. Ranton they were getting balanced scoring. At least those top 2 lines. Even Devin Tays on the back end was getting in the scoring as well. Um, this was a really comprehensive win, well earned 4-game sweep for the Colorado Avalanche. Question going forward for Colorado, we saw this a couple times last season with the playoffs, teams sweeping, um, and then facing a team that goes kind of deep. And all these other series are going kind of deep. We know that maybe Colorado or maybe St. Louis closes out tonight, and we got 2 teams that get a little bit of rest heading into the next round. But last year, Winnipeg blitzed Edmonton out of the playoffs and got a 4-game sweep. Went on to play Montreal, who played a 7-game series against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Montreal went on to sweep the the Winnipeg Jets. And um, they happened to Colorado. They beat the Blues in 4 games, and then they lost to the Vegas Golden Knights. Um, So, yeah, and of course, that next series was 2 teams that had swept facing each other and Montreal winning that series. But this is a interesting thing. I mean, you're firing on all cylinders as a team. The benefit is the rest that the goaltender is going to be able to get because he took that stick to the eye. Hopefully, he's able to come back and be productive in game 1. I don't trust Francouz as a goaltender. In Darcy Kemper is the goaltender for the Avalanche who got hit in the eye. Um, Francouz, I don't trust as a long term solution in net, and hopefully the injury is such that Kemper will be back in starting that series, or Colorado might be in trouble. The first round was a walkover, but either St. Louis or Minnesota are going to be a much better opponent for the Blues or for the Avalanche. Sorry about that. second game tomorrow night. Or actually, let's see, tomorrow night, first game tomorrow night actually is the Pittsburgh and the Rangers game. Boy, the Penguins have the Rangers off balance this season, this series. Um, I was expecting the Rangers to be a much more solid team because they do have a good mix of very young players and like your Lafrenières and your Capo Cacos and your older players like the Breadman Panarin, Mika Zibanejad. So they got a good mix of really good players and really good young players, really good older players. The I think the difference this year, which is interesting because he's been nominated for a couple of big awards this year. The difference is a very young goaltender who's not had the best series so far. Igor Shesterkin has looked very average at times, and he's been outplayed by a journeyman third stringer that played most of the season in Wilkes-Barre, and has bounced around 7 different NHL teams, never really being able to find his place. And he's outplayed Igor Shesterkin, a guy who's nominated for the Hart Trophy, he's nominated for the Vezina Trophy, and, I they almost got closed out, last night. Sidney Crosby got hurt midway through the, second period, took a shot up high, um, tried to play, but he ended up leaving the bench and going to the locker room, never came back. Um, Looking at that hit that he took, it looked like a, head injury. It looked like a possible concussion, um, and that would be too bad because, I mean, Crosby's had concussions, issues, not for a few seasons, though, and, once you have a concussion, the chances of getting a concussion are much higher. So hopefully it's not too long term for Crosby. He is questionable for tomorrow night's game. If he's questionable for tomorrow night's game, I'm sure he's going to be questionable for Game 7. We know how concussions work. They can go away in a couple of days. They can linger for a couple of years. So um, we'll see what happens with Sidney Crosby, who will be the savior for Pittsburgh if we are, for Game 6 or Game 7. Can they continue to rely on Louis Domingue to backstop them and keep them in games? Um, is it Jake Gensel? Is it Evgeny Malkin? Malkin started to revert to taking dumb penalties because he has a history of doing that in the playoffs. And when they've done well, they've been able to keep him from doing the dumb penalties. But uh, what can they continue to keep him from doing the dumb penalties and let him be the guy that leads them, tomorrow if Sidney Crosby is not in the lineup? Um, and, do the Pittsburgh Penguins have somebody on the watch out for Pierre McGuire trying to get into the building to see Sidney? That's my question. That's my question for the series. Um, and who for the Rangers, can Shesterkin regain his form? Um, eh, you know, Not surprising that a young goaltender is struggling in their first big time shot at the playoffs, but, you know, he's gotta step up or all that good work that he did in the regular season is gonna be for naught. If you're the kind of the weak link that's keeping your team down, then, you you it's worrying for the Rangers moving forward. I would just say that. So, especially in that media market, because he'll get eaten alive if he's seen as the reason why the Rangers didn't make it anywhere past the first round. The next series is the Florida Panthers and the Washington Capitals. Woo, man, the Caps had the Panthers on the ropes 2 times, 2 times. They were up 3-2 in the dying moments of game 4, and, with the Florida goalie pulled, and, they had been in the zone for almost a minute at that point, about 2 minutes left in the game, and, Garnet Hathaway got the puck on his stick. There was players kinda close to him, but he could have skated it out. He could have dumped it. He could have, just off passed it through the zone. By that time of the period, the ice is so chopped up, it probably wouldn't have gone down for icing, but at least, take that safe play and get it out of the zone and allow his teammates to change because, again, they had been in the zone for quite a while. Um, instead, he decides to take a shot at the net, and to his credit, he came very close. He hit the outside of the net. If he actually hit the pipe, it would not have been icing, but hit the outside of the net, and, Florida gets the icing, and by the time his line is able to leave the ice, it is 3-3, and we saw what happened with, the overtime. Florida ties the series 4-4 going into Florida. Now, last night, Capitals, come out like gangbusters. They get the early goal in the first period, um, play really well in that first period, play lights out in that first 5 minutes of the second period. They put up 2 more goals at 3-0. You think, "Oh, man, uh, Washington's gonna put a stranglehold on this series, like, they're gonna be up 3-2, going back home." It's perfect situation for them. And, we've heard this before. The Florida Cats came back. The comeback Cats did their thing. By the end of this period, it was 3-2. They tied early in the third, take the lead and win on an empty netter for a 5-3 victory. Going back to Washington tomorrow night to, try and knock off the Capitals. I think they do it tomorrow night. I think Florida's kinda tired of playing around with Washington at this point. Although full credit for Washington, man. Everyone wrote them off of the series. Um, just a couple of bounces here and there, and I think, we could be talking about the Washington Capitals, upsetting the Florida Panthers, being that, uh, the Columbus Blue Jackets to the, Florida Panthers, knocking them off as the 8th seed. And, but, you know, I think they're running out of steam. I think they let that failure in game 4 beat them in game 5, and, if they don't figure something out, they're gonna let game 5 beat them in game 6 and end the series. Um, and let's see, and the big question for Florida moving forward is, does the closeness of the series serve as kind of a wake-up call, kind of focused in the senses, and to take things a lot more seriously and get their game, much better? Uh, their power play has been atrocious in this series, and, does this help them get over the top and take that next step and go into the playoffs? Again, we make fun of Toronto not getting past the first round since 2004. It's been since 1996 when the Florida Panthers were in the Stanley Cup Finals against the Colorado Avalanche, uh, since Florida has gone anywhere past the first round. So, we're talking about first term of Bill Clinton, if we're comparing presidents here. So it's a very interesting thing for the Florida Panthers. Can they get past this first round? I think if they get past the first round, I think they get their legs under them and they start feeling it. And this is a very talented team, but going off performances I've seen so far in the playoffs, I still say that Colorado has the advantage going into uh, if they get to a head-to-head matchup. And then the final series that we'll talk about is Dallas and Calgary. This has been an ugly series. I'm not going to talk about it too much. It is ugly, visually and otherwise. First off, red and green, the bright red and green, orange. It just doesn't work on TV. Um, but this is a traditional throwback, old time playoff hockey series. Um, but it's just awful. Both teams have had very anemic shot production. They've had very anemic goal production. Um, can either team find their scoring and kind of put a stamp on this game because you're wasting really phenomenal goaltending efforts from Jake Ottinger and Jacob Markstrom, um, for whichever team loses this series. I think Calgary does close it out. I think they just have just enough goal scoring to get past Dallas. Dallas just doesn't seem like they'll ever put more than 2 goals on the board any night, and that'll be a generous night for them. Uh, but we could be treated to a 2-1 nothing or 2-1 game heading down for the next, 2 games in the series if it goes 7. But again, I think it's Calgary, going out of this round. So, um, anyway, that's actually, I do wanna say one thing. I've been watching the playoff coverage on ESPN. One of the people they have calling the West Coast games, is a young lady named Leah Hextall. Her, recognized name, Hextall is a very famous hockey name. Her cousin is a, general manager of the Flyers, and, um, he is, Flyers goalie legend and all that good stuff. And she's got a nice niche of her own, being a female in the broadcast industry. She's called games for the Brandon Wheat Kings. She's called games for the old Canadian Women's Hockey League before that folded. Um, she's called games for ESPN on college hockey, and there's been a lot of people just complaining about her. And I don't see this as anything other than people not feeling comfortable hearing a woman in the booth. ESPN has been a strong advocate for getting women in the booth of major professional sports. We've got Jessica Mendoza in Major League Baseball. You've got uh, uh, Beth Mowins in college football, and now with now with Leah Hextall in hockey. You know, a lot of guys are just angry about her calling these games. I just don't get it. I mean, in a league that still employs Jack Edwards, um, uh, Leah Hextall is nowhere near the worst thing that's going on in hockey right now. Uh, it Is it different from normal calling? Yeah, sure, but, one of the people that encouraged her to actually get into this and start doing, play-by-play was Doc Emmerich. Um, he saw something good in her, and I think she's going to be good. Does her goal call need a little bit of work? Maybe. It's not my favorite, but, I think she does just fine, and I think people just need to get over themselves. If you're that offended that a woman is calling a hockey game, uh, you can go on the internet, get the radio feed, and listen to the radio feed of the home team that you wanna listen to. You can turn on the mute button. You can just not watch the game. I really don't care. Um, Women are getting in the broadcast booth. Women are getting involved in the game of hockey at a level that, frankly, I'm happy to see. And, we're seeing great contributions from, women like, AJ Malesko uh Emmy Granato and, Pascal, I can't remember her name, with Calgary. They're making great contributions, and, they sound fine in the booth, and I'm glad to have them. So, anyway, that's all I got for this week. Get off my soapbox here. We'll be back next week. We'll be talking about first couple games of the second round of the playoffs. I think they start Monday or Tuesday. So we'll have at least a game down for each of the series by the time we convene Thursday night on the Thursday Night Hockey Show. Take care, everybody.